When a Louisiana couple was pulled over for speeding, they noticed the police officer's odd behavior, taking a very long time to exit his patrol car. They ended up getting far more than just a ticket when the officer unexpectedly reached into their vehicle after asking one question. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video with your friends. Maxine Morgan and her husband Jimmy were headed to Shreveport to attend a memorial service for their daughter Daphne, who had just passed away several days earlier, reported KSLA. Due to the circumstances, their rate of travel was the last thing on their minds. I really wasn't paying attention to my speed going down the road, Maxine admitted. I was paying attention to my driving, but my mind wasn't there. Before she knew it, Maxine saw blue lights flashing behind her. She had just gone through a speed trap, and Bossier Parish Sheriff's Deputy Jackie Lovelace caught them on radar going too fast. I was parked at Taylor's Grocery looking for speeders heading west, Lovelace recalled. When they came by, they were speeding. At every traffic stop, Deputy Lovelace calls in his location and the license plate, which is standard procedure. But unique to his stops, Lovelace says a quiet prayer before exiting his vehicle. Like so many other officers, he fears for his safety every time he makes a traffic stop, since he knows how quickly they can go wrong. Deputy Lovelace approached Maxine and Jimmy with kindness, asking them how they were doing. So, Maxine explained to him that they were headed to the memorial for their daughter, Daphne, who had passed away just days before. It's hard. Very hard, Maxine said, fighting back the tears. It's the hardest thing in the world to have to give up one of your kids. Moments after Maxine explained to Deputy Jackie Lovelace where she was headed, he left the couple stunned. Lovelace offered Maxine Morgan not a speeding ticket, but a prayer. He reached into the vehicle and grabbed her hand. "If I pray with you," Lovelace recalled, "when the Spirit of the Lord comes up to me to pray, I'm obedient to him and pray with that person." Maxine and Jimmy, who were overwhelmed with grief, didn't hesitate to pray with the kind-hearted deputy. It was just what they needed to get them through what was sure to be a difficult day ahead. "It just touched me so much," Maxine recalled. "He took the time to pray with us." Deputy Jackie Lovelace, who was also moved by the moment, remembered one part of their prayer that really stood out to him. In the middle of prayer, she grabbed my hand and held my hand real tight, he said, and tears started coming from her. Tears of greatness and tears of appreciation. As for Maxine and her husband Jimmy, Deputy Lovelace's great show of kindness really had a positive effect on the grieving couple. She said that now, whenever she thinks back to the horrible day of having to lay her daughter to rest, she'll always remember a deputy that took the time to comfort them in their grief. Although Maxine Morgan got off without a speeding ticket, she doesn't consider the traffic stop to be without consequence. Maxine and her husband Jimmy will never forget the kind police officer who did everything in his power to make that sad day better. "I think he was our miracle that day," she said. "We needed something that day and he gave it to us." Deputy Lovelace provides an excellent example of what it means to serve the very people you've sworn to protect. And his services made an otherwise dreary day for the Morgans just a little bit brighter with his actions. Kudos to him for going out of his way to help a family in need of comfort, when he very easily could have just written them a ticket and been done with it. Maxine and Jimmy's encounter with Deputy Lovelace didn't just stop at the prayer. After the prayer, the deputy asked if there was anything else they needed. Maxine, overwhelmed with emotion, could barely muster a response, but her eyes spoke volumes. Lovelace could see the deep sorrow in her gaze. the weight of the loss she was carrying. He told them to take their time, not rushing them back onto the road. I didn't want to just leave them there in that moment, he said. I wanted to give them the space to collect themselves. As the couple sat in their car, Maxine reflected on the unexpected kindness they had just received. In the midst of their sorrow, the deputy had provided a moment of solace. It was like he was sent to us at that moment, Maxine said. We didn't even know we needed it, but we did. Jimmy, who had been mostly silent throughout the encounter, squeezed his wife's hand and simply nodded in agreement. The moment was one of peace in the midst of a storm of emotions. The day of their daughter's memorial was understandably difficult, but Maxine and Jimmy carried with them the prayer they shared with Deputy Lovelace. Maxine mentioned to family and friends that something incredible had happened on their way to Shreveport. It wasn't just the loss that defined the day, but the reminder that even in the darkest times, there are glimmers of light. It's hard to explain, Maxine later said, but that one moment with the deputy made the day a little more bearable. Days after the memorial service, Maxine couldn't stop thinking about Deputy Lovelace and his act of compassion. She decided to reach out to the sheriff's department to thank him formally. She didn't want his kindness to go unnoticed. When she called, the dispatcher was moved by her story and promised to pass along her message. Word spread quickly, and before long, Deputy Lovelace became something of a local hero for his small but impactful gesture. For Deputy Lovelace, the encounter wasn't just another stop in his day. He reflected on the Morgans and their grief often, wondering how they were doing. You don't forget moments like that, he said. It's part of why I became an officer in the first place, to help people, even if it's in ways you don't expect. The story of his prayer with the Morgans quickly became an example for other officers in the department, reminding them of the power of empathy and humanity in their work. The Morgans, still grieving the loss of their daughter, found comfort in the fact that they were not alone in their sorrow. The support from Deputy Lovelace gave them a sense of connection to their community. It wasn't just about the prayer, Jimmy later said. It was about being seen in our grief, about someone taking the time to care. For the couple, it was a reminder that even strangers could become a source of comfort in times of need. Maxine shared her experience with Daphne's friends and other family members, who were touched by the story of Deputy Lovelace. Some of them reached out to the officer as well, sending messages of gratitude. For Maxine, telling the story helped her process her grief. Talking about it made me realize how lucky we were to have encountered him, she said. In our darkest moment, he was a beacon of light. In the months that followed, the Morgans worked to find a new normal without their daughter. They continued to hold on to the memory of that day, not just because it was the day they laid Daphne to rest, but because it was the day someone showed them extraordinary kindness. Maxine kept a journal where she wrote about her feelings and thoughts. One entry, in particular, stood out. I'll never forget that prayer on the side of the road. It was a moment when the world stopped spinning so fast, just for a minute. Deputy Lovelace, on the other hand, continued his work in the community, now more aware than ever of the profound impact small gestures can have on people's lives. I don't do it for the recognition, he said. I do it because it's the right thing to do. His story serves as a powerful reminder of how much a simple act of kindness can mean to someone in need. For Maxine and Jimmy, it wasn't about avoiding a speeding ticket. It was about the unexpected gift of compassion they received when they needed it most. Maxine often thinks back to that moment on the side of the road, when the flashing blue lights meant something entirely different than what she had expected. It wasn't about the law being enforced or a penalty being issued. It was about a human connection. Sometimes you just need someone to remind you that you're not alone, Maxine said. And for that reminder, she would forever be grateful. As time passed, Maxine and Jimmy found themselves telling the story of Deputy Loveless to more and more people, not only as a way to honor their daughter's memory, but also to highlight the power of compassion in the most unexpected moments. Maxine, in particular, started sharing the story at her church, emphasizing how a single act of kindness from a stranger had helped them navigate one of the most challenging days of their lives. You never know what someone is going through, she would tell others, but a little kindness can make all the difference in the world. For the Morgans, Deputy Loveless had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that, even in their darkest hours, humanity still shines through.